This was 2:30 a.m. this morning. This is the future state of the motion picture industry.
$50-50 by 2020 to get women to get the bigger budgets as well.
It's very, very important that we put the stories in the hands of the people who own those stories.
Welcome to the second half of the DOC conference. To begin, we would like to acknowledge that today's event is taking place on the treaty territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation and the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Huron-Wendat. We are grateful to have the opportunity to work in this community. The TIFF DOC conference program is made possible by the generous sponsorship of Showtime Documentary Films. I'm pleased to welcome Kathleen Lingo to present about the New York Times OpDoc series and the Times' evolving strategy for film and TV. Kathleen Lingo is the first editorial director of film and television for the New York Times. She's responsible for developing and producing feature films and TV content. And before becoming the editorial director, she was the executive producer of the Times' Emmy-winning and Oscar-nominated short doc series, OpDocs. Join me in welcoming Kathleen Lingo.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. So I'm just going to jump right in. So as Danae introduced me, I'm the editorial director for film and television at the Times, and I'm here to talk about our famed OpDoc series and how its success is the foundation for our new venture into film and television. So to start out this chat, I'm going to talk a little bit about the origin of OpDocs at the Times. When OpDoc started in 2011, it shared the same mission as everything we do: a front-page news story, a style story, a magazine cover story. It's to really seek the truth and help people to understand the world we all share. The Times has been around for a long time, almost 170 years. And as the years have gone on, we've definitely evolved the kinds of journalism we produce and how we tell those stories. As audiences' tastes and expectations, along with technology and the marketplace, have evolved, we've always been innovative in the way we've done things. It hasn't always been the same. This is the first front page we ever did. In 1851, that's when we published our first words. In 1896, we published our first pictures. We added sections like travel and food. And then we've also innovated in terms of adding video in 2008, VR in 2015. But that change hasn't always been met with great enthusiasm. And a story I love to tell to sort of illustrate how change works at the New York Times is the story behind the first color photo that was ever published on the front page, and that was in 1998. Now, the technology definitely existed way before that to publish a color story and indeed a color photo, and indeed we published our first color photo in 1993. The reason why we didn't rush into color photos was there was a perception that serious journalism was done in grayscale, and that a color photo on the front page could distort people's understanding of what was important and create the wrong emphasis. Here's a photo of Joe Lelyveld and Tom Bodkin. Lelyveld was the executive editor in the 90s. Tom Bodkin is still our design director, poring over a newsprint color photo. And what I love about this picture is you can see the passion at the Times, not only for truth, but also for excellence. Excellence in everything that we do. So when OpDocs was founded in 2011, it had to be as truthful and as excellent as everything else. But there was some nervousness, I'll be honest. Filmmakers and artists making work for the Times. Why did we start OpDocs? Well, in 2011, we'd published our first video in 2008, and the opinion section, which is where OpDocs is published, is home to the op-ed page. The op-ed page is the one place in the Times where writers from outside the Times write articles on issues of the day. the war in Afghanistan, gender equality, and a secret about those essays is they're often written by authors who have books coming out. And the op-eds are sort of short teasers for their books. So there was this idea, oh, documentary filmmakers make these long documentaries on subjects the Times cares about. Maybe they'd like to do a short doc to help promote their film and to help us branch out into this new medium. But when I first came to OpDocs in 2013, basically every film had to go through the editorial page editor, and he would nitpick and ask a lot of questions, and we really knew from the beginning of OpDocs that working with artists and filmmakers was going to stretch our colleagues, who are all print journalists and reporters and editors, to get them comfortable with the idea. So we fact-check every single OpDoc, but OpDocs was also founded with another core value of the op-ed page, which is creative experimentation. Every day on the op-ed page of the New York Times, there's a piece of art. So that DNA of artistic experimentation was important to OpDocs, and we've always tried to push the boundaries of filmmaking. And in 2014, we actually published a documentary with actors. Actors in a documentary in the New York Times sounds weird, right? But we published alongside the short film, it was called Notes on Blindness, this card, which explains that it's the story of a man going blind, and the film that audiences were about to see were based on a diary that he had kept. And the film is a dramatization. So with that card, we were able to keep our contract with the audience. We were able to say, look, this is a documentary with actors, it's breaking ground, but it's still gonna be truthful. OpDocs has now, as I think I mentioned, published 313 short films. We've won numerous awards and accolades, and for those of you that aren't familiar, I'm gonna quickly go through some of our greatest hits. The program by Laura Prachus was published in 2012, and that features William Binney, who is an NSA whistleblower who was one of the first people to bring attention to the government's warrantless wiretapping of its citizens. And when I say the government, I should say the United States government, not the Canadian government, luckily for all of you that live in Canada. And actually, Edward Snowden did see this OpDoc, and it was one of the reasons why he did reach out to Laura Poitras. We've published 8 films by Errol Morris. The still photo here is from Umbrella Man, which is a wonderful short film about not believing everything you see in a photograph. And then a recent smash hit, My Dead Dad's Porno Tapes by Canadian filmmaker Charlie Terrell. It won the Canadian Screen Award for Best Short Doc, was on TIFF's top 10 list last year, and was Oscar shortlisted. So along the way of working on so many short films, I learned a lot about the form. So this section of the talk is really aimed at filmmakers, to give you a little bit of insight in what I learned about what the difference is between the bar for a feature doc and the bar for a short, because they're really not the same. The stories don't need to have the same legs, for example, in a short as a feature. So a lot of short docs fall into this bucket. They're great character profiles with unexpected points of view. The first still you see is from Long-Term Parking by Lance Oppenheim, and that was a short doc about a group of airline employees that live in a parking lot outside of LAX. The next one is from Dead Metal Grandma by Leah Gallant, and that was a short about a Holocaust survivor and a musician who decided to join a metal band in her 90s. It's a lot of fun. Another great type of short film is a postcard, and usually these postcards are from worlds we've never been to and probably will never go to, but you're so glad you went there in a short film. So the photo on the left with 4 faces is called Natural Born Settlers, and the filmmaker, Iris Zaki, is herself Jewish and Israeli, but from Tel Aviv. She's a total left-wing hipster, and she decided to spend the summer in a settlement with Jews her same age, but with whom she completely disagreed on how to deal with the Palestinian conflict. The other photo here is from a great op-doc called The Rebel Puppeteers of Sudan by Rupa Gojaneni. And this is about a group of puppeteers in the Numa Mountains using parody to attack their evil dictator, Bashir. So neither of these films have full character arcs, not much happens. You just kind of drop into this really great, interesting world and hear from the people who are there, and that's enough, because it's a short. Another great thing about short form is you can really experiment. You can push boundaries. So the one with Trump and Hillary and Weird Al Yankovic, is he popular in Canada too? Do you guys know Weird Al? Okay. So this video was by the Gregory Brothers, who did a series for us where they songified different political candidates. So it's basically Weird Al, Trump, and Clinton singing through one of the debates, the presidential debates from 2016. And then the other short here is from a film called Verbatim Photocopier. And Verbatim is this really interesting format that the director, Brett Weiner, came up with, where he uses court transcripts, turns them into a script, and then has actors act them out. This short here, Photocopier, is funny, but he also did one about the shooting of Mike Brown in Ferguson, who is an unarmed man who was shot by a police officer, and he took the depositions of the police officer and his best friend and intercut them in this Rashomon-style take on something that was a big news story, but when you see it in this format, you're like, wow, I never understood it that way. But of course, the best short films do what feature films do, which is to really show stories playing out on screen. A wonderful example is 4.1 Miles, which was an Oscar-nominated op-doc about a Coast Guard captain on Lesbos in Greece, who at the height of the refugee crisis was literally pulling hundreds of people out of the water every day. And then 10 Meter Tower is a great example of both experimenting with the form and letting stories play out on screen. This film is almost a psychological experiment. You see people going to the top of a 10-meter high diving board and deciding whether or not they're gonna jump. So each person is their own little tiny story. It's super fun. So as I mentioned earlier, the impetus for OpDocs was this idea that maybe feature filmmakers would want to do shorts. And indeed, the first OpDoc we ever published was called Silent Majority by Penny Lane and Brian Fry, was related to a feature called R. Nixon. And Notes on Blindness, which I mentioned earlier, was such a successful short, it even won an Emmy, that the filmmakers were able to get a full funding for a feature doc and a VR. And the VR Notes on Blindness is incredible. If you ever have a chance to see it, it's literally the best VR film ever made. I had nothing to do with it, just throwing that out there. But there's many flavors in the shorts to feature pipeline, and I talk a lot about with filmmakers who are making features if they should do a short. It doesn't honestly always work to do a short from a feature. When you're doing something as like a proof of concept, that can be really useful. For example, Orlando Bagwell made a short doc called When the Loud Music Turns Deadly, and that was the story of a young man who was killed by a white guy in Florida, and basically Orlando wasn't sure if he was going to make a feature, but the OpDoc did well, so then he decided he did want to make the feature. It was on HBO. Natural Born Settlers, she actually, at the same time that she was shooting for the short, she also knew she was shooting for a feature and that she would do both. And then the Oscar winner, Free Solo, they made an OpDoc when they were totally done filming, and they made it they put it out at the same time as their theatrical. So it was really a way to help grow the audience for the film, and I have to say it's one of the most viewed OpDocs ever. It did so well. And then right now, sort of transitioning to this new thing the Times is doing, making features and producing features and series in-house. Right now I'm producing 2 features based in OpDocs. One is by the filmmaker Garrett Bradley, and it's sort of a sequel to her Oscar shortlisted film Alone. And the second one is by Lance Oppenheim. And both of these films, originally the film that Garrett's working on now was going to be a short, and then she decided it would be a feature. And with Lance, he approached me about a year ago and said, hey, I want to make my first feature doc. We'd made 3 shorts together. Would you help me produce it? I was like, sure, it's not really my job, but don't tell anyone, we'll figure it out. So now both of these films are actually close to being done, and people ask, okay, this is exciting. Where can I watch these films? Are they going to be on the Times' website? No, they will not. And let me tell you why. So we have this new podcast called The Daily. It's been incredibly successful. It's had 50 million downloads. People love it. But one of the reasons why we feel it's such a success internally is most of the people that listen to it, around half, have never even been to the Times website before. So that means we're reaching new audiences. If we want to continue doing what we do for another 170 years, we're going to need to meet audiences where they are, show them what we can do, and then hopefully someday they'll come and become subscribers. So this is really a new era. As the Times is moving into film and television, we're doing this both to make great work and evolve our storytelling, but also to meet new audiences where they are, whether that's on a screening platform, in a theater, or on a screen of any size. And also we're doing fiction, we're not just doing nonfiction, because we truly believe that stories, whether true down to the smallest detail or a great fictional one, can get at truth, which is our core mission. So we have 3 shows that have just launched or are about to. The first is Modern Love. It is based on a column that we've been running for decades. I honestly don't even know how many years. It's really sort of a stalwart thing at the Times. And it's directed by John Carney. It features famous actors like Tina Fey, Anne Hathaway. That'll be on Amazon in October. And then we have The Weekly, which is a weekly news show. It's on FX and Hulu. And Diagnosis, which is on Netflix. So The Weekly is kind of exactly what you expect the New York Times to be making in film and television. It's a half-hour news show. Each episode is based around a New York Times journalist, a group of journalists uncovering a story like on Trump's inauguration or the child separation policy. Diagnosis, it was made in partnership with Lightbox and Scott Rudin, and it's based on a column that's been in the New York Times Magazine for 20 years about people with diseases without diagnoses. So basically what these 2 examples show is the Times really changing its role. I mean, for decades, people have used Times articles to make film and television. Now we're really joining that, and we're really looking to partner with talent, with directors, with producers who want to work with us to make great film and television. So what does it mean for the New York Times, a news organization, to produce? We really can offer some pretty unique assets at all stages of production. During development, we have incredible resources. For example, right now I'm developing a doc series around culture, and we're not only able to talk to reporters who are experts on that story, they're also sharing with us confidential sources to help really suss out the story. We're meeting with photo editors and designers to think about the look of the show. And also we have this incredible resource called the Morgue. The Morgue is where photos go to die. It's a repository of 9 million undigitized images. The guy at the top there is Jeff Roth. He's the archivist who runs it all. He deserves his own documentary. And there's basically the history of the world down there. So whether, say, we're going to do a doc about people climbing Mount Everest, we literally have photos of that going back 150 years. Okay, during production, what do we have to offer? Well, really, the most important thing is access. When we're working on a doc, I really want to build partnerships between directors and reporters. We have a film in production now with an Oscar-winning director, and he's working with one of our foreign correspondents. And not only is the foreign correspondent helping him think through the story and with access, but we're also using the Times' name to get the film team into a country. It's hard to get in film teams, and working on security. So there's a lot of value add that we can bring that it's really hard to get if you're an independent filmmaker, of course. So the other thing that we bring to the table at the stage of distribution is we really, since this whole thing is about finding new audiences, we really want to leverage our megaphones to bring people in. So to ensure the visibility of our projects, we'll leverage our audience. That includes 150 million global digital readers each month, 4.7 million subscribers. And to give you a sense of what kind of plans we would do to promote something, I'll quickly walk through what we're doing for Diagnosis. So Diagnosis launched in August with Netflix. I was like, is Netflix going to care that the Times is going to help promote this? They have their own machine. Oh yeah, they cared. So the best thing we have is our editorial channels. So that means articles. So for Diagnosis, we built a landing page with information on the show. It's all about crowdsourcing, so it got into the sort of the behind the scenes, the making of. To promote that page, which also included a push to watch the show on Netflix, we promoted on the homepage, section fronts, in our app. And then, of course, on social, Netflix and the New York Times social teams work together. We have a huge social reach. We have literally 41 million Twitter followers, for example. And then another cool thing is we have tons of newsletters, and we have 12 million active subscribers to those newsletters. So we were able to promote the show that way, and then also with targeted emails. Targeted emails means we can send emails to people we know are already interested in the topic of the film or television show we're working on. We also did a Times Insider piece. This is just another piece of editorial content. This is promotion that money can't buy. And then we did an event. Events are really wonderful ways to, of course, showcase your work, but every invitation to an event serves as further marketing for the show. And we can do things like this around the launch of a show, or later on in the process, such as around an awards campaign. So I hope what all the filmmakers out there are thinking right now is, I would love to work with the Times, because we would love to work with you. So people ask me, do I have a list of articles that I'm looking to develop? And the answer to that is no. Because the success of OpDocs was really because it was a filmmaker-driven series. The few times I did assign stories to filmmakers, they honestly weren't as good. So I'm really hoping that filmmakers will read our articles and reach out to me and say, hey, I think this could make a great doc, and then we can get started. So just to wrap up, basically, what we're trying to do right now is push our storytelling skills this new direction of film and television to further the pursuit of truth that is so needed in our world right now, and to do so with a really, really high bar for excellence. It's a really exciting and groundbreaking time, and we're really thrilled to be here to tell you all about this endeavor. So I hope you can either join us in help making these shows or someday come and watch them. Thank you so much. So we do have a few minutes for questions. There's one right back there.
Hey, my name is Rafael. I'm a producer. Yes, I would like to work with you guys. My main question is, yes, of course, we can reach out to you, but then it comes to how do we get in touch with New York Times? Because obviously there's,
Oh, they took away my thing.
Oh, wonderful.
There's my email. And also, I wanted to add, OpDocs is still going strong. And for any of you that are interested, I have postcards up here with more info on pitching to OpDocs, because I don't want OpDocs to get forgotten. So please also make sure it's pressed.
And then my second question is, I'm constantly working with international content. I'm originally from Brazil. Are you guys curious to be doing docs there outside of the US?
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, just the way we cover the globe in our news report, we definitely want to do the same thing in our film and television.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Thanks for your question.
It's on, okay. I wanted to know about the liability for filmmakers. Obviously, your articles and the newspaper is covered by your own insurance.
Right.
And do you, who takes the liability for the filmed content?
So it would definitely depend on who owned the project. But for example, we have a feature doc right now that the E&O insurance for the feature doc is the same policy that covers everything else we do at the Times. So it would depend on the project, but we're insuring the work we're doing now on our own E&O. Right here.
What's the arrangement with the rights of the project? Does Time own it, or is it, I'm a producer as well, my name's Paris Moore. Do I own it? Is it 50-50? How does that work?
Well, it's going to depend. Every project is completely different, and it depends on a myriad of factors. So it's hard to answer that question. Right now, some of the projects we're working on, we own 100%. Some we have a joint copyright. Some we don't. So it's really a range. Over here? Oh, here. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, hi, how are you? I'm Rajiv Fernando. I'm a humanitarian film director and film producer. I work with Doctors Without Borders, and I now work in New York City as an infectious disease physician. I was very interested in your show, Diagnosis, and I was wondering whether there are any opportunities for other doctors to be a part of your show.
So I'm not sure if we're going to do another season yet, but if we do, absolutely interested in talking about it. If you watch the show, it's really tightly crafted around Dr. Lisa Sanders. She is like the main character of every episode and does the voiceover, but I think it would be interesting to add more characters, for sure.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks for coming. Right here in the front.
So you mentioned earlier that you originally made OpDocs as a way for filmmakers who already had features lined up to promote their features, but that's why they made OpDocs. So when people are trying to pitch to you, would you recommend, what can they do to try and stand out when they try to pitch to you their kind of story? Would you
have a really good idea?
A really good idea?
Yeah. There's actually a lot of OpDocs by first-time filmmakers. And honestly, like as someone that's worked with filmmakers at all stages of career, we all feel incredibly excited when we know we're publishing someone who's never had a film before. So please don't let that hold you back. Like OpDocs has a pitch form online. If you just Google OpDocs pitch form, all those pitches get read. So just come with your great idea and we'll be thrilled to connect and hear more about it. Right behind you, there's someone.
Do you do original fiction, or the fiction must be adapted from the properties of New York Times?
No, that's a really, really great question. Fiction is a little bit of a taller mountain to climb, as everyone knows, I think probably in this room. So right now, all the fiction we're doing is based on New York Times IP, but I love the idea in a future world that wouldn't necessarily be the case, but that's how we're doing it now. What?
We shouldn't pitch for that.
Yeah.
Hey, I just had a quick question in terms of how do you decide that someone who's pitching to you is the right person to tell the story, and sort of is there any way that someone who is pitching to you can express that they are the right person to tell the story?
I can only evaluate a pitch based on the information that you put in it, so I would just encourage you to have people read your writing and make sure that you have a strong argument. All right, I think we're out of time. Thank you all so much for coming. If anyone wants OpDocs postcards, I will stand up here and come up and I can hand them out. Thanks to all of you. Have a great festival.